You are listening to the Doug Hagmann Radio Show, weekdays 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And now the man behind the mic, a private investigator with over 30 years under his belt, Doug Hagmann.
Good morning, everyone. It's 6 a.m. on the West Coast of America, 9 a.m. here in the East. Welcome to Hagmann. It's the Doug Hagmann Investigative Hour for today, Thursday, October 18th, 2018. Day 637 of the Donald Trump presidency, 19 days to the midterms. A lot at stake in the midterms. I know, my wife said last night, she said, I'm sick and tired of all these elections and the election news and elections, but this is a critical one indeed. Well, buckle in, because I'm going to get into, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is and who is behind the resistance movement. There is a push to unseat Donald Trump. There's a push to unseat, impeach Judge Brett Kavanaugh. That very same movement, the very people behind this, they're all connected. And when you follow the trail from the protests on the street to the protests at the Supreme Court to the larger or more organized or higher level resistance movements within the government. You follow the money, follow the breadcrumbs, dig deep, and it all comes back to a handful of groups. Now, as I've said often on this show, Organizing for Action, Barack Hussein Obama, the shadow government behind the government. Now, a couple of pieces of information, I think. If you read the book The Amateur by Edward Klein, this was written some time ago. In fact, before the 2012 election, it was really an expose into Obama from early years through 2012, or just before the 2012 elections. It was undecided whether Obama was going to win, of course, in 2012. That was a given, but still, the votes were not in and such. But The Amateur kind of lays out the nuts and bolts of Obama, his upbringing, and Valerie Jarrett and others around him, and especially Michelle Obama. Interestingly enough, Michelle Obama, who she is, or, well, do I need to say it? Okay. Regardless of that, and that book is by Edward Klein, but that book does lay out some interesting information about the mental state of Obama and the fragility of Obama. But more importantly, it does explain Obama being the most divisive president or the most divisive individual in the Oval Office in the history of our country. Now, what we see today is the result of that. Now, obviously, the divides did not start in 2008. They were accelerated in 2008 by Obama. What I'm going to give you is a complete report, verbal report assessment on what we're seeing today, digging deep into the resistance movement from the Women's March to Hollywood, to the inner circles of the swamp, Washington, D.C. All of this, connecting all of the dots together using the monetary, the money trail, as well as the individuals, the people who are part and parcel to the resistance movement. From Michael Moore of Hollywood to really everyone. This is a big chunk of information I'm about to give you. So if you're so inclined, you can take notes, or you can just remember what I'm telling you. It all began, of course, with the Donald Trump presidency, which I mark daily by the day number of his presidency. And it all began on Election Day of 2016. At least it began in the form of, in its current form. It was always there. The ideology, the communist socialist, or the socialist communist ideology was always there. Maxine Waters being part of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, for example, in the Black Caucus. The individuals, each making up, such as Maxine Waters, in power, Maxine Waters, Dianne Feinstein. When you look at these people individually, in the criminality, and I do say criminality, when you look at Maxine Waters and the her daughter involved in a fundraising, a mailing scheme, if you will, being paid by Maxine Waters. The template, the modus operandi, the MO of these people are the same. The playbooks are the same, pretty much, with personalizations made, I suppose. But the overarching or the overbearing resistance movement, or at least the organization aspect of the resistance movement, comes really from Obama and his circle of handlers and those people closest to him. I'd mentioned organizing for action. This is Obama's personal group, personal army, personal entity. Pretty much everything that we have seen since the Donald J. Trump presidency, since the inauguration, has been organized by, or at least touched upon by, Organizing for Action. Now, let me give you some information about Organizing for Action. This is a nonprofit group which is dedicated to advancing Obama's agendas, even out of office. It was at one time a subset of the DNC, of the Democratic National Committee, when it was known as Organizing for America. It was kind of this nebulous, there was overlap with the DNC. But it has shifted subsequent to Donald Trump's inauguration. It has shifted as the source, the bottom line source of all anti-Trump protests, all anti-Trump initiatives, or at least the most formidable of those. But it began, Organizing for Action began during the second term of Barack Hussein Obama. It was announced, the creation of Organizing for Action. It began on January 18th, 2013. Its creation was announced by Michelle Obama, along with the national chairman of the group, Jim Messina. Now, Jim Messina, he was Obama's 2012 campaign manager. Now, Organizing for Action, Jim Messina specifically, they were located inside the Washington headquarters of the National Education Association. And OFA, and I'll refer to it as OFA, was created specifically to succeed Organizing for America, which had been formed as a successor to Obama for America. So you've got three groups here. You've got Obama for America, which was the key force, or this initial mega group back in 2008 during the 2008 campaign that existed, or Obama for America. And you might remember that, the placards on the buses and such, the campaign buses, Obama for America. That morphed into Organizing for America, which again was a subset, which was housed within the National Education Association. And then that became in 2013, in 2013, that became Organizing for Action. But it really didn't take on its current role and iteration until after the 2016 elections, presidential elections. Now, Organizing for America had been housed inside the DNC. As I mentioned, Organizing for America. It's difficult sometimes to keep these names straight. Just think of it this way. Obama for America, Organizing for America, Organizing for Action. That's the evolution of this group from 2008 to the current day. Well, Organizing for America was a subset, or at least housed inside the Democratic National Committee. And the DNC actually controlled Organizing for America, at least for a large part. Well, they set up a 501c4, yes, it was a 501c4. Can barely read my own writing here. A tax-exempt nonprofit group independent of the DNC. It was Obama's re-election campaign that morphed after the election into this nonprofit issue advocacy group dedicated to advancing his agendas. This back in 2013. Now, no president, there has been no president who had created this type of organization before in American politics. Obama was the first president to form a group that raised millions of dollars, which was nothing more than, or nothing less than, a campaign fund. And this was a perpetual 24/7 campaign operation. That's how it began, and that's how it was started, and that was the intent while Obama was in office. Now, the initial purpose of OFA, as outlined by Obama when the group began, is to play an active role in promoting and speaking out in support of important legislation. This organization is also a lobbyist group, strong-arming, in some cases, lawmakers. However, set that aside for a second. It was January 2013. This is after the 2012 elections. They were decided, and of course, Obama securing a second term. Obama sent an email to his supporters saying, together, we've fought for historic legislation, and we've brought more people than ever before into the political process. Organizing for Action will be a permanent commitment to this mission. He did characterize Organizing for Action, he characterized it as a permanent promise to that mission. And again, a next step in a grassroots movement. Remember when Obama was talking about fashioning an army? Well, if there is an army out there of Obama supporters, if you will, or people for Obama, this is the general headquarters. And Obama himself said that OFA would become an unparalleled force in American politics. Now, when he was in office, of course, it was more of a lobbying group, or a group that pressured the senators and congressmen into voting certain ways, and even pressured businesses. If you recall, both pressuring and supporting businesses. Recall all of the times when Planned Parenthood was under the microscope. Who propped up Planned Parenthood? To an extent, it was Organizing for Action. Or who spoke out against the gun lobby? Well, Organizing for Action was part of the movement, the grassroots movement against the rights of the American people and pushing the insanity of open borders and things like Planned Parenthood, infanticide, and you get the idea. But surprisingly, and I when I read the book, The Amateur, surprisingly, and The Amateur is by Edward Klein, by the way, it gives you good background insight, contemporaneous to the 2008 to 2012 time period. It's dated, but it's excellent for the background information. And Edward Klein has written great books since then. But surprisingly, Michelle Obama, Michelle, whatever, the role that she has played into OFA, boy, there I go again, stymied. My speech is stymied. It's her role in Obama's presidency or rule or reign cannot be understated at all. And tasked with monitoring Obama and keeping him safe from, oh my goodness, any critical remarks is Valerie Jarrett. But think of Michelle Obama, whatever. Think of Michelle Obama as Barack's Hillary Clinton, because man, it's kind of the way she was. The temperament, the role that she played. Do not in any way, shape, or form underestimate Ms. Obama, Michelle Obama. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you, I've just, my head is spinning looking at all of this information and doing this research and seeing really what I haven't seen before. When you come back with fresh eyes and you look at a time period such as 2008 to 2012, and you see all that's going on, and then you realize the players involved and the overlapping areas of influence. Oh my goodness! But okay, but even today, because today we are at war. America is at war with itself today. I am just merely telling you who our enemies are. You want a prime number one enemy? It is Barack Hussein Obama, Michelle Obama, Valerie Jarrett, Organizing for Action. You want to know really who's at the very end where the buck stops of the weaponization of the IRS, the weaponization of the intelligence community? Who, aside from Allah, John Brennan bows down to? It's Barack Hussein Obama. I'm telling you. The group Organizing for Action, it has a new mandate. Its mandate now is to finish what the Obama regime started, and truly make that change that they believe in. Make the full conversion. The president, the individual in the Oval Office, be damned. This country is going to go full-on socialist, and we're going to make sure of it. That's Organizing for Action. Organizing for Action, at this point, I would say, if you know, or I would say at the very least, remember this, indivisible.org. They have the playbook, indivisible.org, which is an operational arm of Organizing for Action. They've got the playbook for the tactics used for the resistance movement. But again, Organizing for Action right now, OFA, is the brainchild, as I mentioned, of Obama, announced by Michelle Obama, Jim Messina, an evolution from Obama for America, Organizing for America, now Organizing for Action, just to recap. So there we have it. And instead of operating from the Democratic National Committee and from the National Education Association and their real estate, now it's being operated from deep inside the mansion on Embassy Row that was purchased, or that houses Obama and Michelle Obama, Valerie Jarrett, and holds regular meetings and such. But now the shadow government, the beachhead, has been established at the home of Barack Hussein Obama. That's right. The Muslim in chief, the community organizer, the socialist promoter, But again, when we look at this, and I just want you to keep this in the back of your mind, do not discount the Michelle Obama effect. And Edward Klein, in his book, when talking about Barack, his smoking, for example, someone asked someone related or close to him if he wears a nicotine patch, and the answer was Michelle Obama is Barack's nicotine patch. It's more lethal than a nicotine patch. That kind of gives you a mental image of Michelle Obama, as perhaps you would relate that to Bill and Hillary Clinton, but I digress. Anyway, in the very early days of Organizing for Action, OFA identified certain policy concerns or certain areas of interest, including, but not limited to, raising the debt ceiling on the federal budget as a means of promoting economic well-being of the country. In other words, spend their butts off and raise the debt ceiling, which we saw under Barack Hussein Obama. And secondly, Obamacare, entirely redo the healthcare industry. Thirdly, what we're seeing today, open borders. In other words, to say it more politically correct, taking a step to make America's immigration policy much more fair, much more efficient and just. And they would do that, and have done it, by passing comprehensive immigration reform, including the DREAM Act, which would provide this, so nice path to citizenship for the illegals in this country. What about climate change? Obviously, creating these oppressive rules on corporations, on businesses, because climate change is because of the bad gasoline engines and the factories and everything. It's the planet will be destroyed by 2020. Climate change is a big deal. Now, I'm not trying to minimize what's going on with our climate. I just don't have any belief that mankind has much to do with that at all. It's all about the sun. It's all about other factors, but certainly not mankind. In the early days of Rush Limbaugh, he would talk about that. But anyway, but also perhaps one of the last, but maybe the most important aspects of Organizing for Action would be to address the gun laws in the United States. And that includes banning these ugly or bad-looking guns, these intimidating-looking guns, military-style assault weapons, banning high-capacity magazines, and working with other groups that do the same. But then there's the operational part or the tactical part of OFA, Organizing for Action. They go out and they train groups, specifically leftist organizers or communist organizers. They train them in the street tactics, the tactics used by Saul Alinsky. And then they pass along their knowledge to additional people, the young people in particular, all across the United States, but also focusing on the campuses, which is why the campuses have been made fertile communist indoctrination centers. And I should say this. When we refer to public schools or public education, don't refer to it that way. Refer to it as government schools, because it's really government indoctrination. But having said that, Organizing for Action has taken advantage of the fertile ground that the higher academia provides, and they institute the Saul Alinsky tactics. OFA trains. They're instructor trainers. They train instructors, and then these instructors pass the radical street fighting tactics that was popularized by Saul Alinsky along to additional people, especially the young. It was November 2015. As of November 2015, Organizing for Action, OFA, they had trained more than 10,000 organizers. And those 10,000 organizers turned out over 2 million young people. So what you've got is the Obama army, the Obama brown shirts in a sense. Now, OFA holds regular organizing summits on college campuses. Here's another entity that you've got to keep your eye on, or at least know about. Organizing for Action, OFA. A leading project of OFA is Community Organizing Institute. The acronym COI, Community Organizing Institute, which Organizing for Action describes as a shared space for organizers, policymakers, advocates, change agents to come together for workshops, panel discussions. Hey, let's sit down. Yeah, let's smoke a bowl and let's talk about things. Presentations, trainings, film screenings, social gatherings. And this is the social, kind of the social aspect of things. All right, so that's the Community Organizing Institute. So you've got OFA, you've got Indivisible under that, or Indivisible as the street arm, indivisible.org. And then you've got COI, which is the Community Organizing Institute. Okay, you with me so far? I'm sure you are. It's pretty simple. You can. By the way, Matthew Vadum, who writes for Canada Free Press and other locations, he gets into a lot of what COIs or what COI does. Okay, but specifically in this, according to Matthew Vadum, at COI, Community Organizing Institute, you can learn how to spark riots, get arrested to make a political statement, organize lynch mobs and voter fraud on a massive scale. Yes, they teach voter fraud. They teach you how to do it. They teach you how to intimidate and shake down corporations and blackmail lenders and race-bait public officials and businesses into submission, smear and terrorize your opponents, shield illegal aliens from law enforcement, lead squatters to invade foreclosed homes, encourage welfare fraud, use tax dollars to promote social engineering schemes. Believe me, I know personally. Because when you start speaking up, whether, again, I'm speaking from experience. All right. But see, to promote its socialist, communist agenda, what they do, Organizing for Action, uses social media to mobilize flash mobs. So, Ted Cruz. Pick an event where there has been this sudden, all of a sudden, you see a whole bunch of people coming out of nowhere. Was this done spontaneously? People walking down the street? No, there's Ted Cruz. Let's join the fray here, and let's yell at him. Was it because of Maxine Waters? Well, in part, but no. The real thing here. Look to social media, the social tech giants, the leftist communist bastards that they are, the Facebook and Twitter. They're the platform that COI, specifically the Community Organizing Institute, uses to send out training notices, but more specifically, Organizing for Action. They're the platforms that are used by Organizing for Action in order to organize these groups. With the blessing of Facebook and Twitter, with the blessing of the snot-nosed, wet-behind-the-ears, zit-faced Mark Zuckerberg, and that coward Jack Dorsey of Twitter. But their targets? Police departments, police themselves, anyone who dare deny that the climate is being changed and damaged by man-made means. Any Wall Street predators, of course. Oh, you're pro-Second Amendment? Pro-First Amendment? Ditto. We're there. This is the organization, or OFA. They hold rallies. against anyone who dare, and specifically conservatives, who dare oppose homosexual marriage or LGBT rights or abortion on demand. Oh, and you speak out against illegal aliens? God help you, because OFA's coming for you. Now, you've got this cumulative effect of these demonstrations. Just all you have to do is select your choice. Select your cause. Are you anti-gun? Okay, over here. Are you anti-gun? Over here. Are you pro-homosexual? Okay, over here. Are you pro-woman, anti-man? Okay, this area here. What Obama has done as a community organizer has successfully created an institute or an organization that trains people to train the street protesters. And more importantly, or on the same pattern here, what they do is they send out these groups on command and on demand, I suppose. They understand one thing. They understand public perception. Oh my goodness, they are great at the optics. OFA understands that the creation of public perception is extremely vital. And they use Saul Alinsky's maxim about how intimidating a mass impression can be. Remember Saul Alinsky, what he wrote in his book, Rules for Radicals. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. And this creates this mass impression, or the mass impression is further supplemented by the parallel groups and the activities of groups such as Black Lives Matter, Occupy Wall Street, and so on. AmeriCorps. Again, this is a 501c4. They're permitted to raise unlimited sums of money from any type of donor, individual, union, corporation, it doesn't matter. That gives them the ability to keep their donor base secret, out of the purview of the American public. Okay? Now, when Organizing for America was initially formed, well, I'll go back. When Organizing for Obama was initially formed, then through its iterations, but initially, they pledged not to accept money from lobbyists or PACs. And they said, hey, we'll voluntarily disclose who donates to us. Yeah, ain't happened. All right, who else is involved with Organizing for Action? Well, there's an executive director that position from January 2013 through November 2014, almost 2 years, a guy by the name of John Carson, Jon Carson, John Carson. He was Obama's national field director during his 2008 presidential campaign, a member of Obama's 2009 transition team, the first transition team to the White House, chief of staff under Van Jones, and ultimately director of Obama's Office of Public Engagement. He had represented Obama at 2 meetings of the Democracy Alliance. Remember, I spoke about the Democracy Alliance. Now, before becoming involved with Obama, just to give you an idea of who populates this group, Carson hitched his wagon to Al Gore back in 2000. Tammy Duckworth, her 2006 Illinois congressional campaign. Carson said back in January of 2013, predicting that Organizing for Action would become the largest grassroots network in the history of politics. He said that the new entity would organize locally and nationally, put pressure on Washington to act in the interest of ordinary Americans, to train the next generation of socialist communists. Okay, I ad-libbed there, but you get it. Now, through its various iterations, the board of directors of OFA, a number of people who were close to Obama, consider Stephanie Cutter, Jennifer O'Malley Dillon. You know these names. I know you know, or at least you know of them. It'll connect. Robert Gibbs, David Fluff, Plouffe, Eric Smith and Smoot, Juliana Smoot, that is, Frank White, Rufus Gifford, Obama's campaign finance director. He was a big donor fundraiser. That guy provided OFA with fundraising advice. David Axelrod served as a consultant. Now, to help, to assist, to prop up OFA, and for them to achieve their political goals. Obama and his compatriots, comrades, leased to OFA sophisticated software and databases, voter files, folks, 20 plus million email names, email lists and such, donor lists, which they had developed for Obama's re-election campaign. There it is right there, Obama supporters, voter files. Here's the software. Here's the Excel spreadsheet. Now, these assets, that's an asset. Knowing, however, Obama, knowing that list, the names of donors and voters and supporters and such, knowing that this could be advantageous to future Democratic candidates with access to them, Obama said, nope, they're mine, they're all mine, you can't have them. They built this list using the DNC, and then said, you can't have, and looked at the DNC and said, you can't have this list. It's ours. We built it. You didn't build that. We built it. So, consider that, all right? Never in the history has that happened before. But as this organization evolved, it was January of 2013, shortly, it's really, in terms of organizing for action, very new in its evolution. There was a meeting called the Road Ahead Conference in January of 2013. That was held at Washington's Museum. It was sponsored by an entity titled Business Forward. That's an organization funded by a number of major corporations, and each of those corporations sent their senior staff or executives to participate in the meeting. Discussion panels on how to promote American economic prosperity, but with a communist socialist twist. All right. And what we saw here with this, and I want folks, listen to this, because this is really not, this is understated. Consider, you have Obama in office, January 2013. You have this PAC, OFA, in existence. The PAC, Organizing for Action, calls a meeting, titling it The Road Ahead. It's a conference held in Washington, D.C., sponsored by Business Forward, an organization funded by a number of major corporations. And these corporations sent their top-level people to this meeting, to this conference, to talk about how to promote American economic prosperity via communism and socialism. That's my addition there. Now, let me ask you a question. What is the definition of, or what are the elements of fascism? Isn't it I'm asking you, you look it up, fascism. Fascism. About business and government together. Shouldn't this raise eyebrows? Yet it got very little coverage, or no one's concerned about this. These are the limousine liberals meeting under OFA. And by the way, through its affiliation with Business Forward, OFA established very strong ties to these corporations. Big money, big corporations, top executives. And the ties, okay, and through this affiliation with Business Forward, OFA, the strong ties they held to those corporations. And the invitation for that meeting I referenced, the Road Ahead conference, were sent jointly by Obama's National Finance Committee and the Presidential Inaugural Committee, along with the Center for American Progress and Media Matters. Oh, and by the way, the keynote speaker at that event, Bill Clinton. You see, look up fascism. So OFA, in the early days of 2013, they had a conference. Again, just a recap, so you understand this. They held a conference titled "The Road Ahead." This was about economics, how to really create this economy, but it was how to create this economy through socialist means, and I add that in there. That's my encapsulated contextual version of that. And combined with all of this to prop up this conference that was attended by many of the top executives of major corporations all across the United States were the limousine liberals. And Obama used national assets, presidential assets, or political assets, the National Finance Committee, the Inaugural Committee, combined with the other entities, Soros entities, Center for American Progress, and then David Brock's Media Matters. And, of course, as I mentioned, this keynote speaker at that January 2013 Washington event titled The Road Ahead, Bill Clinton. And it was at that event, it was at that conference where Jim Messina, the OFA national chairman at that time, he asserted that OFA was building a national advisory board filled with the people in that room at that time. He cited the Common Purpose Project, the acronym CPP, Common Purpose Project. This is a nonprofit group known for its weekly meetings of left-wing socialist communist nonprofit groups with White House officials. This at the time Obama was in office. Okay, so now CPP, the CPP founder at that time, Eric Smith, well, still the founder, but Eric Smith, a fully democratic socialist operative, a former campaign consultant, board member of both OFA and Business Forward. Big part of this. Again, his name, Eric Smith, E-R-I-K, Smith. But then the OFA's then executive director, John Carson, for his part, told the donors, the supporters at the conference, at the Road Ahead conference, that everyone is going to have a place, from the grassroots volunteers to every one of you. The fight to reduce gun violence, for example. The fight against climate deniers. Again, pick a topic. And the people there at that meeting, that's kind of the seminal moment at January 2013 when businesses worked with these organizations and the assignments were made, if you will. And these are my words now. All right. I hopefully you see where this is all headed. You know, when I talked about Democracy Alliance, and when people talk about Media Matters, or George Soros' Center for American Progress, and I just mentioned Business Forward, where do all these groups, how do they get their power, their money, their influence? It all traces back to Organizing for Action. It's a two-way street as well. Organizing for Action is supporting either, regardless of the type of support, that is, again, the entities I mentioned, Business Forward, Center for American Progress, Democracy Alliance, Media Matters, and the Organizing for Action is supporting them, and they are supporting in turn or acting on behalf of Organizing for Action. So, and there's some big money people here too. Huge money people. But I'm more concerned, and well, I'm equally concerned, in addition to the money, the financing. When you look at Twitter, for example, you see hashtags such as hashtag We Demand a Vote, or any hashtag related to gun control measures, any hashtag related to pro-life. And these morons out there, these really low IQ morons who jump onto a cause who they've got no idea why they're putting a hashtag out there, they're actually supporting groups that I mentioned. But it was the month after that meeting, that January 2013 meeting, that OFA, they initiated this Twitter hashtag campaign, hashtag We Demand a Vote. And that was an effort to influence the public, including congressional representatives, to pass Obama's gun control measures. Oh, wait a minute. So you've got Twitter now involved. Okay, I can stop there. You see where this is going. Advance that hashtag, those hashtag campaigns to today. When you follow backwards the hashtag campaigns, guess where they start? Oh, that's right. The individuals who really are the graduates of the OFA, Organizing for Action, and even OFA itself. Now, I can tell you about the various fundraisers, the summits, the conferences sponsored by or given by OFA. Jim Messina, John Carson, others. This is throughout the period from 2013 to the present. There was much overlap between OFA and guess who? The media. Members of the media. And there was, when you were involved with Organizing for Action, you can see where there was preferential treatment given, especially to reporters and such. And the big money events to really create, and again, so many events, so many people, so many overlaps. But at the very center of this, at the hub of all of this, is Organizing for Action, is Barack Hussein Obama. And all of these anti-gun, anti-constitutional issues, pro-open borders stuff, the hashtags, the rallies, the protests, the riots. Yeah, they're from various groups like Democracy Alliance, Resist.org, whatever. But at the end of the trail is Organizing for Action. That's the main parent group. Now, consider, right after Donald Trump, right after the 2016 election, Organizing for Action increased the size of its staff. It ramped up its efforts to recruit not just the more vocal, but the young people who would go out and riot. Again, my words, my opinion, based on my investigative research, for those transcribing this. Organizing for Action, on its website after the 2016, they doubled down. We are not backing down. In fact, we are doubling down to preserve the legacy of Barack Hussein Obama. Preserve his stance on immigration, on healthcare, on race, on climate change, on wealth redistribution. In other words, socialism. This is why Obama never left Washington. He's organizing, he's behind this group. And he has spoken to the people within OFA saying, you're going to see me. I'm not going anywhere. And we can cook up all sorts of great stuff. But we got to get organizing. And Michelle and I are going to be right there with you. Paul Sperry did a great piece back in February of 2016, or February of 2017. He did a great piece. In fact, I've printed it out and I've got dog-eared copies of it. But Paul Sperry wrote back in 2017, February, he said, Obama is working behind the scenes to set up what will effectively be a shadow government to not only protect his threatened legacy, but to sabotage the Trump administration and its popular America First agenda. He's doing it through, this is Paul Sperry now, he's doing it through a network of leftist nonprofits led by Organizing for Action. Now, at that point, OFA, they had 250 offices and 32,525 volunteers nationwide. They also, at that time, had another 25,000 volunteers being trained. You see, the 2016 elections energized the socialist parent company OFA, or parent entity OFA. Obama scared, afraid that his legacy was going to be wiped out by President Donald Trump, and much of it already has. In his post-presidency involvement with OFA, Obama has overseen the group's operation from his 8,200 square foot walled mansion in Washington's Embassy Row. That's his shadow government White House. He, Michelle Obama, Valerie Jarrett, that's where they live. They live together. And by the way, the Obama Foundation has set up an office in that building as well. They have been Organizing for Action, or OFA. They've been behind just about every anti-President Trump protest that has taken place across the United States since 2016. Again, Paul Sperry. OFA activists helped organize anti-Trump marches across U.S. cities, some which turned into riots. And after President Trump issued a temporary travel ban on immigrants or aliens from other specific countries, well, actually 7 terror-prone nations, there were demonstrators jammed at airports. Remember the JFK thing? Remember where they, back right after the announcement, or right after that announcement was made, JFK Airport was almost shut down. But the chants, no ban, no wall, no sanctuary, or no ban, no wall, sanctuary for all, and other such chants, where they thought up, they're thought up through the instructors from OFA. Obama, at that point, at that time, he just spoke highly. He praised the rioters, the protesters. In fact, he said that he was heartened at the level of engagement taking place in communities around the country. Now, OFA, back in early 2017, planned to stage some 400 rallies across 42 states, specifically designed to attack President Trump and the GOP over Obamacare. In March of 2017, the Daily Mail issued a report describing the type of sustained chaos and intimidation that OFA and other anti-President Donald Trump socialist organizations and activists were spreading at town hall meetings, at GOP offices. You get the idea. Maxine Waters, of course, coming out and saying, hey, get them where they sleep, where they eat. Never let them rest. This is part of the OFA platform. But as I mentioned on this program, I've been a guest host on InfoWars. I've talked about indivisible.org, their practical plan of action. You see hashtags on Twitter, which are being promoted by Twitter. Hashtag Blue Wave. Indivisible.org. That's the organization. That's the practical arm. That's the tactical arm of OFA. If you go there right now, Take action now. Build the blue wave. Canvass. Register voters. Get out the vote. Believe me, folks, indivisible.org, which is, again, the tactical operation part of OFA. Oh, by the way, they're also involved in the Spygate witch hunt. They're calling for people to protect Mueller, protect Rod Rosenstein. Okay, I'm just telling you, their tactics, their operations are into even that. But I forgot where I was going with that. But the indivisible movement, of course. There are former congressional staffers, current congressional staffers, especially those working for members of the Progressive Caucus within Congress, who are meeting and attempting to put up roadblocks against what Donald Trump is doing in the legislative side of things. And people like Sheila Jackson Lee, Maxine Waters, and you know their names. But they're part of this indivisible.org, which is an extension or a subset of OFA. They're behind the clawing at the Supreme Court doors. They're at least the organization they're in. And they're behind the anti-Donald Trump resistance movement. And they're the ones in bed with Twitter and Facebook. OFA is. And Indivisible, by extension, indivisible.org, at least tactically. Here's what we're going to see. We are going to see a great push from OFA between now and the midterms. OFA is pulling out all the stops, meaning Obama has pulled out all the stops, and they intend not just to create these optics, but they are messing with the polls. In other words, creating the optics that, it's going to be a blue wave. Hey, Republicans, sit home this one. Sit home, stay home. But they're doing more than that. They're also creating this tactical smear machine against the GOP conservatives, both candidates and supporters therein. So over the next 19 days, actually, you are going to see this push for the socialist takeover emanating from OFA, using subgroups, including but not limited to indivisible.org. They're pushing now for this protecting Obama's legacy and socialist reform. They're doing it through phone banks, they're doing it through mailers, they're doing it through a number of things, through a number of tactics. They plan, based on their own words, should they lose, well, regardless, if they win, they lose, it doesn't matter. What they intend to do is, following the 2016 elections, they intend to ramp up the internal, the chaos. They intend to continue the chaos. If they win in 2016, the roadblocks against President Donald Trump will be like none other seen in the history of politics. Should they lose, the same thing will happen. It's kind of like, look, if we win, we're going to destroy America. If we lose, we're still going to destroy America. We've got the enemy within. Inside the Beltway, the stench is coming from inside the Beltway. And the stench, community organizers such as, but really Obama, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, Valerie Jarrett, you know their names, and the members of Congress, members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the Black Caucus, Black Lives Matter, all of these groups, they're joining forces, they're organized. They're coming after you. They're coming after us. They're coming after our guns. They're coming after our free speech. They're already doing it. We've warned you. I've said this, and people mocked and they scoffed. Well, it's here. I'm just telling you who's behind it. Folks, if you like what you heard, please share this on social media. Let me know. Give me some feedback. Doug at HagmannReport.com. I read all emails. I do. And thank you for the ones you've sent. God bless you. Have a great day. Tonight, by the way, on the flagship show, Peter Barichaka interviewing Diana West. And, of course, Keith Hansen, I believe, will be checking in. Hopefully, his schedule will permit that. God bless each and every one of you. Have a good day.
The Doug Hagmann Radio Show is brought to you by the Hagmann Report. Tune in to the Hagmann Report weekdays, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information, go to HagmannReport.com. That's HagmannReport.com.